Thor Ragnarok is directed by
Taika Waititi or something.
I'm sorry if I not pronouncing his name correctly. This is the third film in the Thor franchise. It's also part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that, as we know, start out with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and all them. And this is now the I think it's the 17th or 18th, whichever one we're in order with of the MCU universe. And this story deals with Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth, the God of Thunder, who basically starts out pretty much getting is doing battle with dealing with this fire demon called Surfer, and he discovers that there's a legend called Ragnarok, which is basically it was basically a prophecy, and
it was like a prophecy that fire demon wanted to do and destroy his world, which is Agagon. What's Thor's world?
Asgard.
Asgard, and Thor ends up beating his ass.
Yeah.
So.
And the film deals with Thor having to not only, but basically when he returns after he defeats the demon, he returns back to Asgard and discovers that Loki has basically survived from the last film. Because, spoiler for those of you who haven't seen the last film, it was established that basically Loki in the last film was presumed dead, but he came back. And so in this one, he's returned to Asgard. And he's basically kept their father Odin, in this weird kind of like paradise place. It looks reminiscent of that didn't it kind of remind you of that place like off of Star Wars Force Awakens?
Force Awakens, yeah.
Where Luke is at the end?
Yeah, where it's all ocean. It's like this beautiful little island thing.
Yeah. And basically it's in like in a limbo type of area.
Yeah.
And the rest of the film deals with them having to stop pretty much an evil villain named Hela, played by Cate Blanchett, who wants to pretty much cause all kinds of destruction with Asgard.
Yeah.
Now, a little backstory. As you know, there's pretty much these films that have been coming out with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've always been really looking forward to them because I've always, it seems like 99% of the time I'm always, enjoying a lot of these movies. There might be some here and there that I'm not really too big on.
But Thor was. With my history, I've liked Spider-Man. The one this year I thought was okay. I just wasn't strong with it. I've liked, Iron Man and Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, etc. But Thor just been one of those that's been kind of hard for me to get into. And it's not nothing that it plays a little bit with me not really caring for his character, but I watched 1 and 2, and 1 I was really kind of I thought there's such thing as a starter, and then sometimes there's too slow, and that movie was way too slow for me. And then the second one I thought upped it a little bit. Had not so good of a villain, but I thought they upped the ante a little bit. But I still wasn't sold on it. It was just they're not terrible films. They never were in my top 10. No, hell no. But they just weren't. I just didn't care for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I did enjoy the first Thor, but I did feel like it was kind of lacking in some parts. The second one upped it more, but it still felt like they weren't giving us a good, story itself with the character of Thor.
Yeah.
So with this one, with the third one, I was actually more into looking forward to it because I noticed that with this year, if you notice that coming back from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it seems like Marvel is trying to really be in on the comedy this year. As far as they're not only doing the comedy, but also the whole retro 80s type of feel of it.
And since Stranger Things, it seems like, and I'm glad because it's my favorite decade, that we're doing 80s now, and we're bringing in now superheroes doing it thanks to Guardian Galaxy. And when I saw the trailers of Thor, keep in mind, like I said, I didn't really care for the other two. Even the trailers, I just wasn't really fixated on Thor. But with this trailer's the whole 80s retro and the Guardian Galaxy type feel to it, this one really kind of got me.
It did,
I was
too, yeah.
Okay, I might try this one out. Yeah, it's a little change up. It's a nice change up.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you right now, this has been quite the big year for Marvel of the Cinematic Universe films. Yeah. Well, because with this one, I can honestly say, this might probably be tied with me as far as this and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as my two favorite Marvel films this year.
Yep, same here. I agree with you on that. And Spider-Man, I just was not. It was good. It kind of didn't hit the spot I wanted. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like Spider-Man as well, but I think that this one and Guardians of Volume 2, I think were better as far as story overall.
Yeah.
But anyway, to get pretty much in my pros, like, once again, Chris Hemsworth is great as Thor. I always liked him as Thor since the first one.
He's still
this one, I actually find his performance a lot more, like, more energetic, because it seems like in this one he actually played a lot more of his comedy into it, because the film itself is trying to be in on the joke basically. Because behind the scenes, I think one of they actually wanted to say that this one was more of a buddy comedy.
Yeah,
they were going for.
Well, with a little history I've read where Chris Hemsworth, a lot of the people who's worked on the first two Thors, Chris Hemsworth was the one mainly talking about. He noticed how the audience really didn't care for what they've done with the previous films.
Yeah.
So they thought, with seeing what success with Guardians and how they structured their films and how some other superhero films are starting to do that, they thought they should join today and do that and kind of change it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I like the direction they were going with this, because we get to see a lot more of the one-liners that they give Chris Hemsworth in this, and a lot of he also has a different look this time, because as you see in the trailers, he gets his hair cut.
Which was actually improv by him. Yeah. It wasn't even in the script, and he actually asked if he could write that in to kind of make things feel different and change it up.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Now, I will say that what the first couple Thors failed on, and this one I'm going to give credit big time on, is they fail with their villains. This one with Cate Blanchett, oh my God, they really upped the ante.
They did too.
They actually finally got a fucking villain in the series. Yeah.
Now I like Loki in the first villain, but he was just more of more of an anti-type hero, so to speak, because he was kind of like on the fence of whether being good or bad. Yeah. This one, in the second one you had a very generic type villain.
Yeah.
This one, Cate Blanchett not only brings in a great menacing performance, but also she's very funny too. Like she's probably one of the most like she's campy, but at the same time she's really having a lot of fun with this role.
Yeah, not to mention, oh my God, what it takes to defeat her. You actually feel like the final
the stakes are great. Yes,
stakes are really fucking high. And another praise I gotta give is Jeff Goldblum. You are funny as hell. I enjoyed the hell out of you for what you gave.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum I've always been a fan of, and it's great seeing him back in big blockbusters again. Yeah. Well, sadly we had last year Independence Day, but seeing him back again though, it's also great because he's playing a guy who's part of this like world that he brings Thor on to fight the Hulk in like you see in the trailers, and the way that he's pretty much so like energetic and having that very kind of crazy side of himself, I really highly enjoyed.
Yeah, he was hilarious.
Yeah, and I also really enjoyed some of the newcomers we had too, like the girl who's like the Valkyrie type girl.
Yeah, she fought Cate Blanchett, and her people lost against Cate Blanchett back in the day. So
I really enjoyed her. I thought she was a great addition, and it was also great seeing Mark Ruffalo back to play Bruce Banner in the Hulk again.
And I enjoyed Doctor Strange's little 2-minute cameo, 3-minute cameo. He was, for what they gave him, he was really going for the comedy side, and I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, and I can also mention too that there actually is a cool arc they do this time with Loki that I think actually works a lot well, because you now finally see how things are going to go with him and Thor. Yeah, we won't go into detail, but we'll say that it basically leads into something that's pretty, it really hits it home.
Yeah, I'll explain it more on that department on the spoiler, which is actually why I liked Loki. I think this is my favorite movie with Loki in it. So
yeah. And another thing too, one of the biggest praises I have as well, some other big praises, I really love the change up what they do with the score, because there's been some other Marvel films I've enjoyed that has a good score. This one, they actually upped it around this time. They made it kind of a more synthesized 80s type feel.
80s, like the Guardians, they kind of went with that route with that type theme and stuff with the music. I also like the cinematography. We saw this in 3D, and there was a little part that kind of like went away with the 3D for a while, but for what we saw, the 3D was great.
Yes, it was. It definitely popped out a lot with a lot of key scenes, especially at the beginning when you see the battle taking place with the hammers and stuff. Yeah. And that also falls back too, is that with Thor in this movie, he actually has a great storyline going on with his character, and you actually get to see a lot of great changes that come his way throughout the movie that I really highly enjoyed. Yeah. And so this film, I can honestly say, like, it hit it home with everything you can expect a sequel to do to push the stakes higher. And if this is actually a trilogy, I think that they could really work well with that. You know, if they were going for just 3 Thor movies.
Yeah, I'm glad because, they finally are getting on par with the other ones, and then, I really enjoyed this. Now, as far as my cons, I don't got much flaws with this, and everything, some of the stuff I do bring up is not going to severely, piss me off, because it doesn't. Starting with one of my minors, even though the comedy was good, there was a lot of repetitive, rinse and repeat jokes, and not only that, Guardians of the Galaxy, when they come out with their lines, it's fucking hilarious, and you actually laugh, and they get better and better and better. With this one, they got comedy that works. It's there. It's not something that stands out.
Yeah, I mean, there are great jokes in this film, and there are a lot of great one-liners here and there. It's just that some jokes that some of the characters will be saying, they feel like they would bring that same joke throughout the entire film. Like for example, there would be a joke they would be saying something about, like how Loki says, are we going to play, he's dead again? They did kind of feel like they would use that same joke again,
like that
but
part
they wouldn't.
Where they were saying they're going to go up the Satan's anus.
Yeah.
Was funny the first time, but then they said it 7 times in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's getting old, guys.
And it's not like they had really any payoff. It just felt like they just used the same joke, So some of the jokes can get really repetitive throughout.
Yeah.
And another thing, and this kind of goes into another con. Well, this is a con that I have. I did feel like, and this is more of the problem with the MCU films in general, is that the formula itself, you can pretty much see happen in almost every film, where you have not only just a main villain, where in this instance you have Cate Blanchett, but for a majority of the time you also have another villain that's in the film that kind of takes over for a while until you get back to your other villain.
Yeah.
So you kind of already know where the film is kind of going with its formula at this point.
Yeah.
So but that's really more the problem with the overall MC universe itself rather tn the movie.
And there is another con I do want to bring up, but unfortunately that has to go to the spoiler. So check our spoiler for this other con.
Yeah, we won't say which character it is, but let's just say that it is something that's very impactful for the main arc.
And it is something I do got to complain about. But other than that, man, I want to tell you right now, this will, like I said, they've always been mediocre to me, but this one is going to be in my top 10, pretty much from what I can see. I really, really, really enjoyed this.
I did too, and I love the way the action scenes were coming together too, with the way that, it basically becomes an all-out war this time as well, which I highly enjoyed, and the way that the story is going with how everyone has to be involved with going up with going with Thor and everything. It really it brought such a great impact for me. So with that, I am actually going to really probably put this in my top 10 list. If not, it'll probably be my honorable mention.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm gonna give Thor pretty much a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Thor Ragnarok a 9 out of 10 too. So.
Fair enough. Well, for those of you who have also seen Thor Ragnarok, let us know in the comments of what you thought about it, and some of the other Marvel films as well. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to like and subscribe to our channel, and check out some other reviews, and also check out our reviews on filmfreaks.com, and we'll be seeing you in our next review. We'll see you later.